Ghost Farm. The haunting harvest. In a secluded valley nestled deep within the Rocky Mountains, hidden from the world's prying eyes, a clandestine, secretive research facility dedicated to the study of supernatural entities known as Ethereal Labs operates in the shadows. Led by the enigmatic Dr. Richard Thorne, the laboratory is equipped with cutting-edge technology designed to capture, contain, and study supernatural entities, particularly ghosts. The brilliant and enigmatic director has devoted his life to unraveling the mysteries of the afterlife, driven by a personal tragedy that haunts him to this day. Dr. Thorne's obsession with the paranormal began years ago when his beloved, loyal German shepherd dog named Max passed away. In his grief, Thorne discovered that Max's ghost lingered, providing comfort and companionship. However, when Max's spectral form finally found peace and vanished, Thorne was left devastated once more. This experience sparked an idea. What if he could cultivate ghosts, ensuring that they would never leave their loved ones behind? Because ghosts do not feel pain, Thorne believed that this would be a comfortable existence for them, allowing them to continue their purpose without the burden of physical suffering. Thorne threw himself into his work, developing a complex system to detect, capture, and contain ghosts. He assembled a team of brilliant scientists who shared his passion for the paranormal, using a combination of advanced technology and arcane knowledge. And together they built Ethereal Labs. The facility houses a unique farm where they raise the ghosts of dogs, cats, and even plants. The spectral cats help to ward off evil spirits, while the ghostly dogs serve as loyal guardians. The ethereal plants, with their soothing presence, relieve stress and lift curses. As Ethereal Labs grows, so does its collection of ghostly entities, fueled by Dr. Thorne's deepening obsession with the paranormal. The once small research facility now houses a vast array of spectral beings, each carefully cultivated and studied by the driven scientist and his team. Thorne and his team work tirelessly to unravel the mysteries of the afterlife. He pushes the boundaries of science and ethics, conducting experiments on the captured ghosts to harness their energy and unlock the secrets of the universe. In a chilling monologue, Dr. Thorne reveals his true intentions, his voice filled with the unsettling mix of determination and madness.
Too long, humanity has been at the mercy of death, watching helplessly as our loved ones slip away into the void. But no more. With the power of Ethereal Labs, we will not only conquer death, but harness its energy to shape the very fabric of reality. Imagine a world where the dead walk among us, not as mindless zombies, but as loyal companions and protectors. A world where the boundaries between life and death are nothing more than a thin veil, easily manipulated by those with the knowledge and the will to do so. That world is within our grasp, and I will stop at nothing to make it a reality.
His words echo through the halls of the facility, a testament to the depths of his obsession and the lengths he will go to achieve his goals. The once noble pursuit of understanding the afterlife has twisted into something darker, more dangerous, and the consequences of his actions are about to be felt by all. From the ghostly cats that prowl the halls, warding off evil spirits, to the ethereal dogs that serve as loyal guardians, the lab has become a veritable menagerie of the supernatural. Even the ghostly plants with their soothing presence play a role in Thorn's grand vision, helping to relieve stress and lift curses. As the collection expands, so too does the scope of Thorn's ambition as he pushes the boundaries of science and ethics in his relentless pursuit of understanding and harnessing the power of the afterlife. However, not everyone shares their enthusiasm. Marcus Wright, a tenacious journalist, receives an anonymous tip about strange activities at the remote research facility. Driven by curiosity and a thirst to uncover the truth, as Marcus delves deeper into his investigation of ethereal labs, he finds himself entangled in a sinister world that surpasses even his darkest imaginings. The once promising research facility now stands as a twisted monument to Dr. Thorn's obsession, its halls filled with the whispers of trapped souls and the echoes of unspeakable experiments. With each step, Marcus is pulled further into the heart of the paranormal mystery, his own sanity tested by the horrors he uncovers. The line between the living and the dead blurs as he navigates a labyrinth of ghostly apparitions and malevolent entities, all bound to the will of the mad scientist. As the truth behind ethereal labs begins to unravel, Marcus must confront not only the supernatural forces at play, but also the depths of human depravity in his quest to put an end to Thorn's reign of terror. Marcus infiltrates the facility posing as a new employee. He delves deeper into the secretive organization. Marcus discovers the dark and disturbing reality behind Dr. Thorn's work and the ghost farm. The spectral energy combined with Thorn's meddling in parallel universes and string theory has created an unstable rift between the living and the dead. If left unchecked, this rift could unleash unimaginable horrors upon the world and even threaten the entire universe. He soon learns that the captured ghosts are not merely the benevolent companions Thorn claims them to be. The spirits are subjected to cruel experiments, their energy siphoned off for nefarious purposes. Marcus encounters a particularly powerful ghost named Eliza, who pleads with him to help set the captured entities free. In a haunting monologue, Eliza shares her story.
I was once a living, breathing person with hopes and dreams and a family who loved me. But then I died. And instead of finding peace, I found myself trapped in this hellish place, subjected to endless torment and experimentation. Dr. Thorn claims that he is doing this for the greater good, but I know the truth. He is a madman, drunk on power and obsessed with his own twisted vision of the future. You must stop him, Marcus. We must put an end to Dr. Thorn's twisted experiments, not only to free ourselves, but to liberate every tortured spirit he has trapped within these walls.
As the situation escalates, Marcus and Eliza race against time to stop Dr. Thorn. They are joined by a handful of scientists within ethereal labs, including Dr. Sarah Reeves, a brilliant physicist who has grown disillusioned with Thorn's unethical practices. In a tense monologue, Sarah reveals the true extent of the danger they face.
Dr. Thorne's experiments have gone too far. He is tampering with forces beyond his control, ripping holes in the fabric of space and time. If we don't stop him, the consequences could be catastrophic. We're not just talking about the end of ethereal labs or even the end of the world. We're talking about the collapse of the entire universe, replaced by a nightmarish realm where the dead reign supreme and the living are little more than playthings for their amusement. We have to act now before it's too late.
Together they work to expose Thorne's unethical practices and shut down the ghost farm. They must navigate a treacherous landscape of paranormal phenomena and moral ambiguity, battling not only Thorne's forces but also their own fears and doubts. Marcus and Eliza and Sarah confront Dr. Thorne within the heart of ethereal labs. Amidst a maelstrom of spectral energy and colliding universes, they struggle to close the rift and release the captured ghosts. The fate of the world hangs in the balance as they face the consequences of tampering with forces beyond human comprehension. As the dust settles, the survivors must grapple with the aftermath of their actions. The ghosts, once freed, begin to integrate into society, causing widespread panic and wonder. The government steps in, attempting to regulate and control the spectral population, leading to a new era of political and social upheaval. Marcus, Eliza, and Sarah become reluctant heroes, navigating the complex landscape of a world forever changed by the existence of ghosts. They must confront the ethical implications of their actions and the responsibility that comes with unleashing such power upon the world. In a final chilling monologue, Marcus reflects on the events that have transpired and the uncertain future that lies ahead.
We thought we were saving the world, but in truth, we may have damned it. The ghosts are among us now, and there's no going back. Some see them as a miracle, a second chance at life. Others see them as an abomination, a violation of the natural order. And then there are those who would seek to exploit them, to use their power for their own gain. I fear that in our quest to conquer death, we may have unleashed something far worse. But one thing is certain, the world will never be the same again. And it's up to us to ensure that the future we've created is one worth living in.
The Ghost Farm is a chilling and gripping story that explores the depths of grief, the boundaries of science, and the price of playing God. That will challenge one's perception of the boundaries between life and death, questioning the nature of reality and the true cost of holding on to the past. As the characters grapple with the consequences of their choices, they must also confront the fundamental questions of what it means to be human in a world where the line between life and death has been blurred. The story delves into the depths of human grief, obsession, and the desperate lengths some will go to in order to maintain a connection with those they have lost. As the narrative unfolds, the very fabric of reality is called into question, blurring the lines between the tangible world and the realm of the supernatural. Through the lens of Dr. Thorne's twisted experiments and the heroic efforts of those who oppose him, Ghost Farm's story explores the moral and ethical dilemmas that arise when science and the paranormal collide. Ultimately, this haunting story serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the importance of accepting the finality of death and the need to move forward, even in the face of unimaginable loss. Leaving to ponder the eternal question, just because we can, does it mean we should? To be continued. The negative image. Patrick snapped a photo of his orange tabby cat, Rusty, lounging in a sunbeam on the hardwood floor. Rusty lazily blinked his green eyes at the camera. Patrick, clean-shaven and curious, applied a negative filter to the digital image. His smile faded and turned to the confusion as he zoomed in on Rusty's left eye. There, unmistakably, was the reflection of a man's bearded face. As a renowned photographer and researcher specializing in Kirlian photography and corona discharge effects, Patrick was no stranger to capturing the strange and inexplicable on film. His experiments documenting the ethereal auras of living things had earned him both accolades and skepticism from the scientific community. But this was beyond anything he had ever imagined. At first, Patrick thought it was his own reflection, but he quickly realized that couldn't be the case. The face staring back at him from Rusty's eye was that of a stranger, a man with a full, unkempt beard. Patrick ran his hand over his own smooth chin, confirming that the reflection couldn't possibly be his. A chill ran down Patrick's spine as he tried to make sense of the impossibility before him. Questions flooded Patrick's mind. How could a bearded man's face be reflected in his cat's eye when no such person was present in the room? Or was this a glimpse into something far more profound and otherworldly? And how did his image get captured in his cat's eye? Was he somehow connected to Rusty? Was it some bizarre trick of the light or something more inexplicable? Who was this mysterious bearded man? Many pet owners believe in the possibility of reincarnation and that animals possess souls. Patrick had always kept an open mind to such ideas. Could this be a sign of something more at play? The mysterious reflection seemed to beckon him to uncover its secrets. The longer he stared at the image, the more unsettled he became. The stranger's eyes seemed to pierce through the screen, holding secrets that Patrick couldn't begin to fathom. The bearded man's gaze seemed to hold secrets, dark and ancient, that threatened to unravel the very fabric of reality. Patrick knew he had to uncover the truth behind this mystery, but deep down he feared what he might find. The room suddenly felt chilly, as if an unseen presence had entered. As the room grew colder and the shadows seemed to deepen, Patrick knew he couldn't ignore this strange occurrence. He had to find answers, no matter how much the truth might unsettle him. With a mix of fear and determination, Patrick resolved to unravel the mystery of the bearded man in Rusty's eye, even if it meant confronting the unknown and challenging the very nature of reality itself. Patrick sent the unnerving photo to his physicist friend, Dr. Evelyn Blackwood. They had been close since college, bonding over their shared fascination with the unexplained. If anyone could help unravel this mystery, it was her. That evening, Evelyn arrived at Patrick's apartment, her eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. As she examined the photo on his computer, her brow furrowed and a chill ran through the room. The air seemed to grow heavy with an unseen presence, and the shadows in the corners appeared to deepen.
You're absolutely certain this isn't some kind of digital artifact or distortion?
Evelyn asked, her voice barely above a whisper.
Because if it's not, then we're dealing with something far beyond our understanding.
Patrick leaned in closer to the screen, his heart pounding in his chest.
I've checked and double-checked the original RAW file a dozen times, applied every error correction algorithm. The impossible face remained, an integral and inexplicable part of the image. This is no glitch, Evelyn. That face, it's real. But how and why?
As they stared at the image, the bearded man's eyes seemed to bore into their very souls, holding secrets that threatened to shatter their perception of reality. The room grew colder, and the air crackled with an eerie energy. Evelyn's mind raced with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last.
Could it be a message from beyond the grave? A glimpse into a parallel dimension? Or something even more sinister? We need to investigate this further.
Evelyn said, her voice trembling slightly.
But Patrick, I have a feeling we're about to embark on a journey that will test the limits of our understanding. Are you ready for what we might uncover?
Patrick swallowed hard, his mouth suddenly dry. He knew there was no turning back now. The mystery of the bearded man in Rusty's eye had chosen them, and they had no choice but to follow the path wherever it might lead, no matter how dark and twisted it might become.
I'm positive,
Patrick said.
Look, zoom in. That is clearly a man's face. But it's not mine.
Curiouser and curiouser.
Evelyn murmured.
The physics of reflections shouldn't allow this. Unless...
Her voice trailed off as a wild idea entered her mind. As a theoretical physicist, she had entertained many strange hypotheses before, but nothing like this.
What is it? Do you have a theory?
Not yet. But look here.
She pointed to a dark blur in the background behind Rusty.
Enhance that shadow.
Patrick adjusted the image. The dark blur sharpened into a foreboding, rectangular void.
A doorway.
But Patrick had no such doorway in his apartment.
I don't understand. Where does that lead? I've never seen that door before.
Evelyn took a slow breath.
Patrick, I don't think that door physically exists in your apartment. At least not in our dimension. Call it a hunch, but I have a feeling Rusty has been going somewhere we can't follow.
But how? How could Rusty be accessing other dimensions?
Evelyn shook her head, her expression a mix of fascination and uncertainty.
I don't know, Patrick, but think about it. The bearded man's reflection, the strange energy readings we've been picking up, the way Rusty sometimes seems to disappear for hours on end. It all points to something extraordinary.
Patrick felt his skin crawl. Somewhere beyond our dimension? How was that possible? He thought back to all the times Rusty disappeared for hours and later turned up asleep on the couch. Where had he been venturing?
We have to find out more. If Rusty is indeed traveling to other dimensions, we need to know why and how. We need to understand what this all means.
Agreed. But we must be cautious, Patrick. We're dealing with forces beyond our understanding. We don't know what kind of dangers we might face.
The next few weeks passed in a feverish blur of research and experimentation. Patrick and Evelyn threw themselves into the work with an intensity bordering on obsession, fueled by copious amounts of coffee and the electrifying sense that they were on the brink of a world-changing breakthrough. They started by exhaustively analyzing the original image, subjecting it to every test and examination they could think of. They confirmed beyond any doubt that the spectral face was an integral part of the photograph, not a digital manipulation or artifact. But that only deepened the mystery. How could such a thing be possible? They delved into the science of Kirlian photography, poring over decades of research into the strange corona discharge effects that Patrick had dedicated his career to capturing. They studied the theories of bioenergy fields and morphogenetic resonance, the idea that living systems could generate and respond to invisible patterns of energy and information. They even ventured into the realms of quantum physics and consciousness studies, seeking any clues that might help explain the inexplicable. Patrick and Evelyn set up cameras to track Rusty's movements. But the cat seemed to vanish and reappear in Patrick's apartment without ever using the front door. It was as if he was slipping between worlds, walking through invisible portals. Evelyn pored over the data, trying to form a scientific hypothesis to explain the phenomenon. The mathematics seemed to suggest Rusty was entering a plane of reality with more spatial dimensions than the observable universe, a hidden realm that intersected Patrick's apartment. As they delved deeper into the enigma, Patrick found himself grappling with questions that had haunted him for years. He had always felt a deep connection with Rusty, a bond that seemed to transcend the boundaries of the physical world. Could it be that Rusty possessed a soul, a spark of consciousness that had lived before? Patrick's mind wandered to the ancient beliefs of reincarnation, the idea that souls could be reborn into new bodies, carrying with them the memories and experiences of past lives. He had always been fascinated by the concept, but he had never dared to believe that it could be true. But now, with the evidence staring him in the face, Patrick couldn't help but wonder. Could Rusty be the reincarnation of someone he had known in a previous life? Could the bearded man's face be a clue to a mystery that spanned the ages? Then came the night Patrick awoke to find Rusty missing. He searched the apartment top to bottom. Nothing. Fear rose in his throat. He called Evelyn in a panic. She arrived minutes later with a sophisticated detector of her own invention.
It measured minute gravitational anomalies, subtle bends in space-time that shouldn't exist.
In Patrick's living room, the detector went haywire, beeping frantically and lighting up like a Christmas tree.
There,
Evelyn said gravely, pointing to a shimmering patch of air where the detector indicated a dimensional weak spot.
that's where Rusty went. And if my calculations are correct, that's where we'll find the bearded man from the photo.
Patrick's mind raced with the implications of Evelyn's words. If Rusty had indeed been traversing dimensions, it meant that the very fabric of reality was more malleable than he had ever imagined. The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. Evelyn's voice snapped him back to the present.
I've been analyzing the energy readings from the weak spot.
Her eyes fixed on the glowing screens of her advanced scientific instruments.
It's unlike anything I've ever seen before. The frequency is oscillating at a rate that shouldn't be possible, and the quantum entanglement is off the charts.
Patrick's brow furrowed as he tried to make sense of Evelyn's technical jargon.
What does that mean?
It means that this weak spot is a portal to another dimension, a dimension where the laws of physics as we know them may not apply.
Patrick and Evelyn locked eyes, a profound realization passing between them. They were on the precipice of a terrifying discovery, an answer to a question they had never dared to ask. As Patrick pressed his trembling fingers against the shimmering portal, he felt a sudden jolt of energy coursing through his body. The world around him dissolved in a dizzying swirl of light and shadow, the apartment fading away into a kaleidoscope of colors and shapes that defied comprehension. For a moment, Patrick felt as though he was falling through an endless void, his senses overwhelmed by the sheer immensity of the space he was traversing. He could feel Evelyn's presence beside him, her hand gripping his tightly as they hurtled through the dimensional rift. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the chaos subsided, and Patrick found himself standing in a cavernous space that defied description. Impossible angles and shapes twisted in the air, hurting his eyes to behold. The walls seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, shimmering and shifting in ways that challenged his perception of reality. The air was thick with the hum of alien machinery, vast and incomprehensible in its design. Towering structures of gleaming metal and pulsing light stretched up into the darkness above, their purpose and function a mystery to Patrick's human mind. Evelyn gasped beside him, her eyes wide with wonder and terror.
Patrick, I don't think we're in our universe anymore.
Patrick nodded, his heart pounding in his chest as he tried to make sense of their surroundings. The technology he saw before him was beyond anything he had ever imagined, a testament to the advanced civilizations that must have built it. And there, in the center of the mind-bending chamber, stood a figure that made Patrick's blood run cold. It was the bearded man from the photo, but he was not alone. Beside him, perched on a pedestal of shimmering energy, was Rusty. The cat's emerald eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and Patrick could feel the power emanating from his small form. It was as if Rusty had been transformed, imbued with an energy that transcended the limitations of his earthly existence.
Welcome to the Nexus of Dimensions. I've been expecting you.
Patrick stepped forward, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and curiosity.
Who are you?
He asked, his eyes fixed on the bearded man.
And what is this place?
The man smiled, a cryptic expression that sent shivers down Patrick's spine. He regarded Patrick and Evelyn with an ancient, knowing gaze.
I am the Keeper of Doors, the guardian of gateways between worlds. And this place? It is the Nexus, the crux, the crossroads of realities.
His voice resonating with an ancient power.
Tasked with maintaining the balance between dimensions. And this place is a gateway, a portal to realms beyond your understanding.
Evelyn stepped forward, her scientific mind whirling.
But how? How is any of this possible? The laws of physics can't account for...
Your human science is but a candle flame in the endless night of existence. There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy.
Patrick's gaze drifted to Rusty, his beloved cat, who had somehow become entangled in this cosmic mystery.
And Rusty? Why can he come here? What is his role in all of this?
The bearded man's expression softened and he reached out to stroke Rusty's fur.
Your feline friend is a being of immense power, no ordinary creature. A soul that has traversed the boundaries of time and space, reincarnated across dimensions.
He said, his voice filled with reverence.
Reincarnated countless times to fulfill a higher purpose.
Patrick's heart swelled with a mix of pride and fear. He had always known that Rusty was special, but to learn that his beloved companion was a cosmic entity, a being of immense power and purpose, was almost too much to bear.
Rusty's connection to this nexus runs deeper than you can fathom,
the Keeper continued.
He is bound to it, drawn to it, like a moth to a flame. In each life he finds his way back, driven by an insatiable curiosity to unravel the mysteries of existence.
Evelyn found her voice.
And what about us? Why show yourself to Patrick in that photo? Why let us find our way here?
The Keeper's eyes glittered with amusement.
Because, my dear physicist, you and your friend are not so different from Rusty. You two are seekers, questioners, explorers of the unknown. Your fates are intertwined with the cat's, stretching back through the mists of time.
Patrick's mind reeled as fragmented memories from past lives flickered through his consciousness. Lifetimes spent alongside a familiar feline presence, a constant companion through the ages. As he stood there in the nexus of dimensions, surrounded by the impossible and the extraordinary, Patrick knew that his life would never be the same. The journey had only just begun, and he could feel the weight of destiny pressing down upon him, urging him forward into the unknown. With Rusty by his side and Evelyn's brilliant mind to guide them, Patrick knew that they would unravel the mysteries of the universe, one dimension at a time. The future lay before them, a tapestry of infinite possibilities waiting to be explored. The Keeper spread his arms wide.
And now here you stand on the threshold of a greater understanding. The question is, do you have the courage to step through the door, to embrace the truth of your existence across countless realities?
Patrick and Evelyn exchanged a glance, their hearts pounding in unison. They had come this far, unraveled this much of the mystery. There was no turning back now. And so, with a deep breath and a heart full of wonder, Patrick stepped forward into the nexus, ready to embrace the extraordinary and the unknown. The journey of a lifetime had begun, and he knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Hand in hand, they stepped forward into the nexus, ready to face whatever lay beyond the veil of the known world. Rusty appeared beside them, his green eyes gleaming with ancient wisdom. Together, The unlikely trio ventured deeper into the labyrinth of realities, bound by a shared destiny that transcended time and space. The keeper watched them go, a knowing smile playing across his lips. The cycle continued, the wheel of existence turning as it always had and always would. And at the center of it all, the Nexus waited, a silent sentinel guarding the secrets of the multiverse. Inexplicable and wondrous things happen every day, events that defy our current understanding and hint at possibilities beyond our imagining. As the saying goes, ask and you shall receive. Maybe, if we open our minds and hearts, we'll discover that the bonds of love between ourselves and our cherished companions can transcend the boundaries of a single lifetime. The answers may be waiting for us if only we have the courage to seek them. After the death of a pet, there was always the question, will we see our pets again? Do animals have a soul, a spirit? Will my pet go to heaven? Can my current pet have been with me before? Do animals reincarnate? Do animals reincarnate with a human soul? Perhaps it's wishful thinking or the power of prayers that bring them back to life. I can't say. But I know that miracles happen every day. Ask and you shall receive. To be continued. A ball in hell. Sarah rushed through the bustling streets of New York City, her heart pounding in her chest as she glanced at her watch. The portal to hell would open at midnight, and she couldn't afford to be late. She had made a deal with the devil, and now it was time to fulfill her end of the bargain. As she hurried back to her apartment, Sarah's mind raced with thoughts of what awaited her. She had agreed to attend a ball in hell, the only living soul among a sea of sinful spirits. The mere thought of it sent shivers down her spine, but she knew she had to do it for the sake of her one true love, Michael. Michael had been taken from her too soon, struck down by a drunk driver on his way home from work. In her grief, Sarah had turned to the occult, desperate to find a way to bring him back. That's when the devil had appeared to her, offering a chance to see Michael again in exchange for her attendance at the ball.
Why me?
Sarah wondered aloud as she stood in front of her closet.
What does the devil want with a living soul at his ball? And why am I the one he chose?
She selected a shimmering red dress that clung to her curves, paired it with a pair of black stilettos and a delicate silver necklace that Michael had given her on their first anniversary. As she looked at herself in the mirror, she couldn't help but feel a sense of unease.
Something isn't right.
She muttered to herself.
There's more to this than the devil is letting on. But what choice do I have? I have to see Michael again, no matter the cost.
As the clock struck midnight, Sarah felt a sudden chill in the air. A swirling vortex appeared in the center of her living room, and she knew it was time. Taking a deep breath, she stepped through the portal and found herself standing in the heart of hell. The heat was oppressive, and the air was thick with the stench of sulfur and decay. Sarah felt her lungs burning with every breath, but she forced herself to keep moving forward. She had a job to do, and she couldn't let the devil down. As she made her way through the twisting corridors of hell, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at the twisted beauty of it all. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings of tortured souls, their faces contorted in agony. The floor beneath her feet was slick with blood, and the air was filled with the sound of distant screams.
What is this place?
Sarah whispered to herself.
And what kind of twisted mind could create such a nightmare?
Finally, she arrived at the grand ballroom, where the spirits of the damned were gathered for the festivities. Sarah felt a wave of terror wash over her as she took in the sight of the ghostly figures, their faces twisted into grotesque masks of sin and depravity. But she steeled herself and stepped forward, ready to greet the guests as the devil had instructed. She moved through the crowd, her heart racing as she felt the icy touch of the spirits on her skin. Some of them leered at her, their eyes filled with hunger and desire, while others simply stared at her with a blank, soulless gaze. As the night wore on, Sarah found herself drawn into the twisted world of the damned. She danced with the spirits, their cold hands gripping her waist as they spun her around the room. She listened to their stories, tales of sin and redemption, of love and loss, of hope and despair. "Why are you here?" one spirit whispered to her. "You don't belong among the damned."
I made a deal.
Sarah replied, her voice trembling.
I'm here to see my love again.
The spirit laughed, a cold, hollow sound that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. "Foolish girl," it hissed. "The devil always gets his due. You'll pay for your bargain one way or another." And through it all, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She could feel the devil's eyes on her, boring into her soul with an intensity that made her skin crawl. She knew that he was testing her, waiting to see if she would break under the weight of the horrors she witnessed.
What do you want from me?
Sarah demanded, her voice echoing through the ballroom.
Why did you choose me for this twisted game?
But the devil merely smiled, his eyes glinting with malice. "All in good time, my dear. All in good time." As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, Sarah felt a sudden shift in the air. The spirits began to fade away, their forms dissolving into mist as the portal back to the land of the living opened once more. Sarah stepped through, her body trembling with exhaustion, and her mind reeling from all that she had seen and experienced. But as she emerged back into her apartment, she knew that she had passed the devil's test. She had proven herself worthy of his bargain, and now it was time to claim her reward. With a heavy heart, Sarah made her way to the cemetery where Michael was buried. She knelt beside his grave, tears streaming down her face as she whispered his name. And then, as if by magic, she felt a gentle hand on her shoulder. She turned, and there he was, standing before her with a soft smile on his face. Michael, her beloved, returned to her at last. Sarah threw herself into his arms, sobbing with joy and relief as she held him close. But even as she reveled in the warmth of his embrace, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. There was a coldness to Michael's touch, a hollowness to his eyes that she had never seen before.
Michael,
she whispered, her voice trembling.
Is it really you?
And then, with a sinking feeling of dread, Sarah realized the truth. The man standing before her was not her Michael, but a twisted version of him. A soulless shell created by the devil to torment her for all eternity. Sarah screamed, her voice echoing through the empty cemetery as she realized the true cost of her bargain. She had sold her soul for a chance to see her love again, but in doing so she had condemned herself to an eternity of suffering and despair.
Why?
She sobbed, her body shaking with grief and rage.
Why would you do this to me?
As the false Michael began to laugh, his voice cold and cruel, Sarah felt the last shred of hope drain from her body. She had danced with the devil, and now she would pay the price, forever trapped in a nightmare of her own making. You should have known better, my dear. The devil's voice whispered in her ear. Love is a weakness, and weakness has no place in hell. And so Sarah resigned herself to her fate. A lost soul doomed to wander the halls of hell for all eternity, forever haunted by the memory of the love she had lost and the price she had paid to get it back. But even as she surrendered to despair, a small part of her couldn't help but wonder if there was still a way out. A way to break free from the devil's grasp and find her way back to the light. Only time would tell, and in hell time was the one thing Sarah had in abundance. So she wandered on, a lost soul in search of redemption, forever haunted by the mystery of her own damnation. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months as Sarah navigated the twisted landscape of hell. She encountered all manner of tortured souls, each with their own tragic tale to tell. Some had been condemned for their sins, others for their weaknesses, but all were united in their suffering. Sarah listened to their stories, offering what comfort she could, even as she struggled with her own despair. She couldn't help but feel a kinship with these lost souls, for she too had been tricked by the devil's promises. But as time wore on, Sarah began to notice something strange. The spirits she encountered seemed to be changing, their features shifting and warping in ways that defied explanation. At first, she thought it was just a trick of the light, but soon she couldn't deny the truth. The spirits were becoming more like her, their faces and bodies taking on a human-like appearance. And with each passing day, Sarah felt herself changing too, her own form becoming more ethereal and ghostly.
What's happening to me?
She whispered to herself, her voice echoing through the empty corridors of hell. And then one day she found herself face to face with the devil himself. He stood before her, his eyes glinting with malice, his lips curled into a cruel smile. "You're becoming one of us, my dear," he purred, his voice dripping with false sympathy. "Your soul is being consumed by the darkness of hell, and soon you'll be just another lost spirit, doomed to wander these halls for all eternity." Sarah felt a surge of panic rising in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. She had come too far to give up now, and she wasn't about to let the devil win.
No,
she said, her voice steady and strong.
I won't let that happen. I'll find a way out of here, even if it takes me 1,000 years.
The devil laughed, a cold, cruel sound that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. "You're a foolish girl," he sneered. "There is no escape from hell, no matter how hard you try. You'll be mine forever, and there's nothing you can do about it." But Sarah refused to believe him. She had come too far, suffered too much to give up now. And so she set out on a new journey, a quest to find a way out of hell and back to the land of the living. She searched high and low, braving the darkest corners of the underworld in her quest for freedom. She encountered all manner of demons and monsters, each more terrifying than the last, but still she pressed on, driven by a fierce determination to escape her fate. And then one day she found it. A small, hidden portal tucked away in a forgotten corner of hell. It was barely big enough for a person to squeeze through, but Sarah knew it was her only chance. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever lay on the other side, and stepped through the portal. For a moment, everything went black, and Sarah felt a rush of cold air against her skin. And then, she was back in the land of the living, standing in the middle of a crowded street in New York City. The sun was shining and the air was filled with the sounds of honking horns and chattering pedestrians. Sarah looked down at herself, hardly daring to believe it was real. But there she was, flesh and blood once more, her soul restored to its rightful place. She took a step forward, her heart pounding with excitement and relief. She had done it. She had escaped from hell, and now she was free to live her life once more. But even as she reveled in her newfound freedom, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. The world around her felt different somehow, as if everything had shifted ever so slightly while she was gone. And then she saw him, Michael, standing on the other side of the street, his eyes locked on hers. Sarah's heart leapt with joy and she started to run towards him, her arms outstretched. But as she drew closer, she realized that something was wrong. Michael's face was twisted into a cruel sneer, his eyes glinting with malice. And then, with a sinking feeling of dread, Sarah realized the truth. She hadn't escaped from hell at all. The portal had been a trick, a cruel joke played by the devil himself. And now she was trapped in a new kind of nightmare, one where the man she loved was nothing more than a twisted reflection of his former self. Sarah screamed, her voice echoing through the crowded streets as she realized the true extent of her damnation. She had been played for a fool, tricked into believing that she could escape her fate. And now she was doomed to wander the earth as a lost soul, forever haunted by the memory of the love she had lost and the price she had paid to get it back.
Why?
She sobbed, her body shaking with grief and rage.
Why would you do this to me?
But the devil merely smiled, his eyes glinting with malice. Because I can, my dear, he purred. Because I can. Years passed, and Sarah wandered the earth, a lost soul in search of redemption. She watched as the world changed around her, as empires rose and fell, as wars were fought and won. But through it all, she remained the same, a ghost trapped in a never-ending nightmare. She saw the faces of those she had loved, twisted and distorted by the devil's cruel magic, and she knew that she would never be free. And yet, even in her darkest moments, Sarah refused to give up hope. She clung to the belief that somewhere, somehow, there was still a way out, a way to break free from the devil's grasp and find her way back to the light. She searched high and low, braving the darkest corners of the world in her quest for salvation. She encountered all manner of strange and terrifying creatures, each more twisted than the last, but still she pressed on, driven by a fierce determination to reclaim her soul. And then one day she found it, a small hidden temple tucked away in the mountains of Tibet. It was said to be a place of great power, a sanctuary where lost souls could find redemption. Sarah entered the temple, her heart pounding with anticipation. Inside she found a group of monks, their faces lined with wisdom and compassion. They welcomed her with open arms, offering her shelter and guidance in her quest for salvation. For months, Sarah studied with the monks, learning the secrets of their ancient wisdom. She meditated for hours on end, seeking to purge her soul of the darkness that had consumed it for so long. And slowly, bit by bit, she began to feel a change within herself. The weight of her guilt and despair began to lift, replaced by a sense of peace and purpose that she had never known before. And then, one day, the head monk approached her, his eyes shining with a strange light. "You have done well, my child," he said, his voice soft and gentle. "You have faced your demons and emerged stronger for it. And now it is time for you to face the final test." He led her to a small hidden chamber deep within the heart of the temple. Inside, Sarah found a mirror, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly light. "Look into the mirror," the monk said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Look into the depths of your soul and face the truth of who you are." Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever lay ahead. And then she looked into the mirror, and everything changed. She saw herself, not as she was now, but as she had been before the devil had stolen her soul. She saw the love and light that had once filled her heart, the joy and wonder that had made her feel truly alive. And in that moment, Sarah knew that she was free. The darkness that had consumed her for so long was gone, banished by the power of her own inner light. She emerged from the temple, her heart filled with a sense of peace and purpose that she had never known before. And as she stepped out into the world once more, She knew that she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For she had danced with the devil and she had emerged stronger for it. She had faced her demons and emerged victorious, a true warrior of the light. And now she knew that nothing could stop her. Not the devil, not the darkness, not even death itself. For she had found the true power within herself, and nothing could ever take that away from her again. As Sarah walked out into the world, she knew that her journey was far from over. There would be more challenges to face, more demons to conquer, more lost souls to save. But she was ready for it all. For she had been to hell and back, and she had emerged stronger and wiser for it. She had learned the true meaning of love and sacrifice, and she knew that nothing could ever break her spirit again. And so she set out into the world, a beacon of hope and light in a sea of darkness. She would wander the earth for all eternity, seeking out those who were lost and offering them the same chance at redemption that she had been given. For in the end, that was all that mattered. Not the power or the glory, not the riches or the fame, but the simple act of reaching out to another soul in need and offering them a hand in their darkest hour. And as Sarah walked on, her heart filled with a sense of purpose and determination, she knew that she had finally found her true calling. She had danced with the devil, and she had emerged a true warrior of the light. To be continued. The Haunting of Time Incorporated. It was just another ordinary Tuesday morning at the bustling offices of Time Incorporated. Employees trickled in, clutching their coffees and chatting about their weekends as they settled in for another long day of meetings, deadlines, and endless emails. But for Ethan Reeves, something felt off. From the moment he stepped off the elevator onto the 14th floor, a bone-chilling cold seemed to permeate the air, sending shivers down his spine and making the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. He glanced around uneasily, but everything appeared normal. The same drab cubicles, harsh fluorescent lighting, and tired faces greeted him as always. Shaking off the eerie feeling, Ethan made his way to his desk and booted up his computer. As he waited for it to load, he couldn't shake the prickling sensation that he was being watched. He turned slowly, and his heart nearly stopped. There, standing in the middle of the office, was the translucent figure of a woman in a tattered Victorian dress. Her skin was deathly pale, her eyes sunken and hollow, and she stared directly at Ethan with a gaze that seemed to pierce right through him.
Can you see me?
The ghostly woman asked, her voice echoing as if from a great distance. Ethan's eyes darted around wildly, but none of his co-workers seemed to notice the spectre in their midst. They typed away obliviously at their keyboards, sipped their coffees, and carried on with their morning routines as if nothing was amiss. Yes, Ethan managed to stammer, his voice shaking. Who are you? What do you want?
You must help us.
The ghost woman pleaded, her translucent hands clasped together in desperation.
Only you can see and hear us. Please, we need your aid.
Before Ethan could reply or even fully process what was happening, the ghost woman vanished as suddenly as she had appeared, leaving him gaping in shock and disbelief. He rubbed his eyes hard, wondering if lack of sleep and too much caffeine had finally pushed him over the edge into hallucinations. But as the morning wore on, Ethan couldn't shake the deeply unsettling feeling that something was very, very wrong. The office felt colder than usual, the air heavy and oppressive, and he kept catching glimpses of movement in his peripheral vision. More than once he could have sworn he heard whispering just behind him, the murmurs too low to make out. But when he turned around, there was never anyone there. By lunchtime, Ethan was a jittery, paranoid mess. He practically fled the office, desperate for some fresh air and a chance to clear his head. He grabbed a sandwich from the deli on the corner and ate it in the park, trying to convince himself that the morning's events had just been a bizarre waking dream. But deep down he knew what he had seen and heard was all too real. When he finally forced himself to return to the office, Ethan froze dead in his tracks. The 14th floor was completely transformed. Dozens of translucent figures wandered between the cubicles. Men, women, and even a few children, all in clothing from different eras. Some wore modern suits and dresses, while others were clad in old-fashioned garments that looked like they belonged in a history book. The ghosts moved silently, their forms shimmering and blurring at the edges, but they were undeniably real. Ethan's co-workers were ashen-faced and wide-eyed with terror, as they too stared at the chilling apparitions that had invaded their once ordinary workplace. A few people screamed, leaping up from their chairs and trying to flee, but the ghosts blocked their path, their expressions pleading, "Please, you must listen." The spirits cried out in eerie unison, their voices merging into a spine-tingling chorus. "We need your help, all of you!" Panic erupted throughout the office as people shoved past each other, desperate to escape the nightmarish scene. Ethan alone remained rooted to the spot, his feet seemingly glued to the commercial-grade carpeting, his mind reeling as he tried to comprehend the impossible events unfolding before him. As he watched in stunned disbelief, some of his co-workers hesitantly approached individual ghosts, recognition slowly dawning on their faces.
Grandpa?
Whispered Priya, the accounting manager.
Is it really you?
Other similar reunions were playing out all over the office as people realized the ghosts were their own ancestors, returned from beyond the grave. Ethan spotted the Victorian woman who had first appeared to him. Trembling, he approached her. "Who are you?" he asked. "Why did you appear to me?" The ghost woman smiled sadly, her translucent face filled with a mix of sorrow and hope.
I am your great-great-grandmother, Ethan. My name is Eliza, and I died over a century ago in London. But my spirit, like so many others, could not rest. We have been waiting, watching, and biding our time until the moment was right to reach out to the living. And now, that time has come.
Ethan swallowed hard, his mind spinning with questions. But why? Why appear now after all this time? What do you want from us? Eliza's expression turned grave, her voice heavy with urgency.
We have come to deliver a warning, Ethan. A dire message from beyond the veil. There is a great danger coming to your world. A threat that has been growing in strength and power in the realm of the dead. We have seen it, felt its malevolent presence, and we know that it will soon break through into the world of the living. And when it does, it will consume everything in its path.
A heavy silence fell over the office as the gravity of Eliza's words sank in. Ethan felt a chill run through him, colder than any ghostly presence. "What can we do?" he asked, his voice trembling. "How can we possibly stop something like that?"
You must all work together.
Eliza said, her gaze sweeping over the assembled living and dead.
Every one of you, from every walk of life and every era of history, you must combine your knowledge, your skills, and your strength. Only then will you have a chance of facing what is to come.
Ethan looked around at the faces of his co-workers, seeing the same fear and confusion he felt reflected back at him. But beneath that, he also saw a flicker of determination, a spark of courage in the face of the impossible. "Tell us everything," he said to Eliza, squaring his shoulders. As Eliza began to share her story, the other ghosts chimed in, their voices rising and falling like an ethereal chorus. They spoke of their own lives and deaths, of the dark forces they had encountered in the afterlife, and of the urgent need for the living to unite against the coming darkness. One ghost in particular caught Ethan's attention. A tall, gaunt man in a ragged tunic who stood apart from the others, his eyes fixed on Ethan's co-worker, a quiet programmer named Alex. The ghost approached Alex slowly, his translucent hand outstretched.
"Alexander,"
the ghost said, his voice a rasping whisper.
"My descendant. I have waited centuries to speak with you."
Alex's eyes widened in shock as he stared at the spectre. Who are you?" he stammered. The ghost smiled, a grim expression that held little mirth.
"I am Lucius Aemilius Paulus, and I was once a Roman senator. I lived through the volcanic winter of 536 AD, when the sun was blotted out by ash and smoke, and crops withered in the fields. It was a time of unimaginable darkness and suffering, a time when the world itself seemed to be ending. But I survived, as did a handful of others. We adapted, we persevered, and we rebuilt from the ashes."
Lucius fixed Alex with a piercing stare, his voice dropping to a haunting whisper.
"And now, that same darkness is coming again, Alexander. A darkness that threatens to engulf not just the world of the living, but the realm of the dead as well. You must be ready. You must be strong. For the trials ahead will test the limits of your courage and resilience, just as they did mine so long ago."
Alex swallowed hard, his face pale but determined. I don't know if I'm strong enough," he said softly. "But I'll try. We'll all try." Ethan looked around at his co-workers, seeing the same resolve mirrored in their faces. They were afraid, yes. Terrified of the impossible events unfolding around them and the monumental task ahead. But they were also united in their determination to face whatever was coming, to stand together against the darkness that threatened to consume them all. The ghosts began to fade, their forms growing more and more translucent until they were barely visible. But their voices lingered, a final whisper that seemed to echo through the very walls of the office. "Remember," they said, their words a chilling promise and a dire warning all at once. "We will be watching, we will be waiting, and when the time comes, we will stand with you, the living and the dead, united as one against the coming storm." And then they were gone, leaving Ethan and his co-workers standing in a suddenly silent office, the weight of the world and the fate of two realms resting squarely on their shoulders. The ghostly visitors had come to deliver a dire warning, a message from beyond the grave that could no longer be ignored. Now it was up to the living to heed their words, to band together in the face of the impossible and fight for the very survival of their world. The battle was only just beginning, and the outcome was far from certain. But one thing was clear. The haunting of Time Incorporated was just the first step in a journey that would test the limits of human courage, resilience, and unity in the face of an enemy that defied the very laws of life and death. And so, with trembling hands and racing hearts, Ethan and his co-workers began to plan and prepare, knowing that the fate of everything they held dear hung in the balance. The ghosts had warned them, and now it was up to them to act, before it was too late and the darkness consumed them all. To be continued. The Spiral Enigma. The signal came from deep space, a faint but unmistakable pattern amidst the cosmic background noise. James Thompson of the Starship Odyssey stared at the readout on his console, his brow furrowed in concentration. It was unlike anything he had ever seen before. A perfect spiral following the Fibonacci sequence with uncanny precision.
What do you make of it, Thompson?
Asked his second-in-command, Commander Sarah Adams, leaning over his shoulder to get a better look.
I'm not sure,
Thompson replied, shaking his head.
but whatever it is, it's not natural. Something out there is trying to communicate with us.
The Odyssey had been on a routine survey mission at the edge of the solar system when they picked up the signal. Now, as they followed its trail deeper into uncharted space, a sense of unease settled over the crew. Their instruments were behaving erratically, the ship's navigation systems glitching and failing with alarming regularity.
Captain, we've lost our bearings,
reported the navigator, Lieutenant Michael Chen.
I can't get a fix on our position. It's like we're flying blind.
Thompson gripped the armrests of his chair, his knuckles turning white. They were lost, adrift in the vast emptiness of space with no way to find their way back home. But still, the signal called to them, drawing them onwards like a siren's song. Days turned into weeks as they pressed on, the crew growing increasingly restless and on edge. Tempers flared, and whispered rumors began to circulate of a curse, of a malevolent force that had lured them to their doom. And then, just when all hope seemed lost, they saw it. A massive structure loomed before them, a towering spiral that seemed to stretch on into infinity. It was impossibly perfect, each curve and arc following the Fibonacci sequence with mind-bending precision.
My God!
Breathed Sarah, her eyes wide with wonder.
What is it?
As they drew closer, the structure began to shimmer and fade, its edges blurring and dissolving until it vanished entirely from view. But then, just as suddenly it reappeared, this time even larger and more imposing than before.
It's a ship.
Thompson realized with a start.
A cosmic shipwreck, abandoned and adrift in the void. But the design... It's too perfect to be natural.
They maneuvered the Odyssey alongside the derelict vessel, matching its slow, lazy spin. Up close they could see that its hull was pitted and scarred. The once gleaming metal now dull and tarnished with age. Its exterior solidifying into a tangible form. The crew of the Odyssey watched in awe as a hatch opened, inviting them to enter.
We have to go inside.
Thompson said, his voice barely above a whisper.
We have to know what happened here.
Donning their spacesuits, Thompson and Sarah led a small team towards the mysterious vessel, using the Odyssey's docking clamps to secure themselves to its hull. As they stepped through the airlock and into the ship's interior, they gasped in shock. The inside of the ship was utterly unlike anything they had ever seen before. The interior of the ship was completely transparent, with no walls or barriers to be seen. It was as if they were standing in the open expanse of space, the stars and galaxies stretching out in every direction.
This is impossible,
breathed Michael said, his voice trembling with fear and awe.
Where are the bulkheads, the life support systems, the engines, the controls?
But there was nothing, no sign of any technology or machinery at all, just an endless expanse of empty space, broken only by a single solitary object floating in the center of the room. It was a sphere, its surface a flawless mirrored glass that reflected the starlight like a prism. Thompson approached it cautiously, his hand outstretched. But as he drew near, an invisible force pushed him back, preventing him from making contact.
Be careful,
he warned, holding out a hand to stop the others from getting too close.
We don't know what this thing is capable of.
But it was too late. As Sarah took another step forward, the sphere began to glow, its surface shimmering and pulsing with an eerie, otherworldly light. The sphere began to change colors, cycling through a spectrum of hues before vanishing entirely, winking out of existence like a snuffed candle flame. Thompson and his crew exchanged bewildered glances, unsure of what to do next.
Where did it go?
Michael asked, his voice trembling with fear.
What is happening here?
But Thompson barely heard him. His attention was fixed on the spot where the sphere had been, his eyes widening in disbelief as ghostly figures began to take shape before them. The crew recoiled in terror, convinced they were under attack by alien entities. They were like nothing he had ever seen before, translucent and ethereal, their forms shifting and changing like smoke in the wind. Some were humanoid with elongated limbs and bulbous heads that pulsed with an inner light. Others were utterly alien, their bodies a twisted mass of tentacles and eyes that seemed to stare into his very soul.
What are they?
Sarah whispered, her voice trembling with fear.
Are they aliens?
As it drew closer, they saw that it was not extraterrestrial beings, but rather souls. Reincarnated spirits moving between parallel universes. Thompson and his crew backed away, their hearts pounding in their chests as they tried to make sense of what was happening. But before they could react, one of the ghostly figures stepped forward, its movements fluid and graceful despite its otherworldly appearance.
Do not be afraid,
it said, its voice echoing in their minds like a whisper on the wind.
Fear not, we mean you no harm. We are here to help you, to guide you on your journey.
Thompson stared at the creature in disbelief, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing and hearing.
What are you?
He asked, his voice trembling slightly.
What is this place?
The creature smiled, a strange alien expression that sent shivers down John's spine.
We are the navigators, the guardians of the portals between worlds. This ship is a map, a guide to the wonders that lie beyond your understanding.
Thompson shook his head, trying to make sense of the creature's words.
I don't understand. How can a ship be a map? And what do you mean by portals between worlds?
The navigator gestured towards the sphere, which had reappeared in the center of the ship.
The sphere is the key. It contains the knowledge and wisdom of 1,000 civilizations, the secrets of the universe itself. With it, you can unlock the mysteries of space and time, and find your way to a new home among the stars.
The spirit revealed that the glass sphere was a navigational map, encrypted with a message about portals and wormholes that could lead them to habitable planets beyond the solar system. Civilizations far more advanced than their own awaited them, if only they could decipher the code. Thompson's mind raced with the implications of the navigator's words. Portals between worlds? It was the stuff of science fiction, of wild speculation and fevered dreams. And yet here they were, standing in the midst of a ship that defied all known laws of physics, talking to a ghost from another time. If what it said was true, then this ship could be their salvation, a way to escape the confines of their own solar system and explore the wonders of the universe beyond. But as he stared at the sphere, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to it than met the eye. Something dangerous, something that could threaten the very fabric of reality itself.
What's the catch?
He asked, his voice barely above a whisper.
There's always a catch.
The navigator's smile widened, its eyes glinting with a strange, otherworldly light.
The catch, Captain Thompson, is that you must be willing to let go of everything you know, everything you believe in. You must be willing to embrace the unknown, to step into the void and trust in the power of the sphere to guide you.
As the crew worked tirelessly to unravel the mystery, they couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The black hole they had encountered earlier had distorted space in its vicinity, accelerating the passage of years by decades. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, time ran slower on planets with greater gravitational pull than Earth. Thompson hesitated, his mind torn between the promise of salvation and the fear of the unknown. But as he looked around at his crew, at the hopelessness and desperation etched on their faces, he knew that he had no choice.
All right.
He said, his voice steady with resolve.
We'll do it. We'll follow the sphere wherever it leads us.
And with that, the navigator disappeared, leaving Thompson and his crew alone in the vastness of space, with only the glowing sphere to light their way. With renewed determination, Thompson and his crew raced against the clock. Their mission clear: find a new home for humanity among the stars. The spirits guided them, revealing secrets of the universe that had long been hidden from mortal eyes. As they stepped through the shimmering portal, the crew of the Odyssey knew that everything was connected. The living and the dead, the past and the future, the physical and the spiritual. And as they emerged on the other side, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, they couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the magnificent tapestry of existence. They stepped forward, ready to embrace their destiny. Thompson couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder at the journey that lay ahead. They were explorers, pioneers on the frontiers of human knowledge and understanding. And whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever dangers and obstacles they might face, he knew that they would face them together, united by the power of love and the unbreakable bonds of friendship and loyalty. The spiral enigma was just the beginning. The true adventure was about to unfold, in a universe far more vast and wondrous than they had ever imagined. And though the journey ahead would be fraught with peril, they knew that the souls who had guided them would be with them every step of the way, lighting the path towards a brighter future for all of humanity. For in the end, that was all that mattered. Not the destination, but the journey itself, and the people who walked beside you every step of the way. To be continued.